The Bank of Canada recently announced an interest rate drop. We are seeing graphics that show 2.25% splashed across social media. But what does that mean for someone looking to buy a home? Tony Monteiro is a realtor and mortgage agent, so the perfect person to talk about this and really break it down. So, Tony, we want to give real examples. We're going to do that. We are going to show a house. We're going to go through the numbers in just a moment. But first up, 2.25%. We're seeing it splashed everywhere, but that's not a mortgage rate. And someone said to me the other day, do you see the mortgage rates went down to almost 2%? That's not how it works. Can you explain?
Absolutely. So that 2.25 ubiquitous number that we keep seeing everywhere is what's known as the overnight rate from the Bank of Canada. You and I and any other borrower will never be able to borrow at that. That is the rate that basically banks charge themselves if they're borrowing money. So the real rate that we look at is what we call the prime rate that the banks charge their customers. So, for instance, it just went down by a quarter point, and it was at 4.7. So now we're at 4.45. That is the true prime rate that customers will get charged. Now, banks will take that rate, and depending on the financial institution and depending on the individual's credit borrowing, you can get as much as that 4.45 minus a half a percent, minus zero point 0.6 of a percent, and that will be your mortgage rate. But understand, what goes down can also go up, and what goes up also comes down. You've got to be prepared for that.
Okay, so let's start to look at those numbers. So if someone is looking at mortgage rates, and they do vary depending on how you borrow that money, what is an
Mhm.
average that we can look at right now when we break down these numbers?
Okay, so realistically, most people who are buying a house, especially their first house, they they're not really an ideal variable rate mortgage client. It's your first house. You want to make sure that your payment is going to be something that you're comfortable with for a number of years to come. Most first time borrowers will go either to a 3 or a 5 year fixed. Right now, those rates, let's just stick with 5 years because that's what the majority of them do. Right now, rates for 5 year money is as low as 3.99. There's one or two institutions offering a little less, like at 3.94, but you've really got to jump through a few hoops. Realistically, you're somewhere between that 3.99 and 4.19%. But
Okay.
let's just call it 3.99 for the sake of our calculations.
Okay, so 3.99%. So first time buyer might
Right.
be able to get a mortgage right now for 3.99%. Still really good, considering what we've seen
Correct.
over the last couple of
Exactly.
years. And let's look at one of your listings. So up on the
Sure.
screen right now is a listing you just had. It already sold. It sold fast for obvious reasons.
Hmm. Hmm.
$524,000, this property. So $524,000. We're looking at the mortgage rate of 3.99%. What are we looking at then for a down payment for the person who wants to buy this house?
Okay, this price is actually really good for example purposes because the rules say that in terms of a down payment, you need 5%. Now, 5% up to $500,000. Okay. So on your first 500,000, it's $25,000. Five times five, 25,000 dollars. Now, on that extra, let's look at this listing. That extra 24,900, just to work with the actual number of the price of the house, you would need 10% of that amount. So anything over the 500 means that you need 10% for that, whatever that incremental amount is. So in this case, you're talking, another what, $24,900. So
Okay.
for a total of you're looking at a situation where you'd need, like I say, 5% on the first 500 and So $27,900, if my mental math is correct.
In total.
Yeah, in total.
Okay.
Now,
So what
that's
is that?
what you'd need. Sorry, go ahead.
So $27,000 approx in total for the
Yeah,
down payment.
sure.
Okay.
Correct.
And then what does that mean for the mortgage payment each month?
Great. So in essence, what happens is because you are borrowing with technically 5% down, just a little higher, you're in a situation where you have to have what we call CMHC insurance, and that gets added in. So here's the other thing: when you're a first time buyer, you can go up to a 30-year amortization, or you can go to a 25-year amortization. And those two things can really help someone qualify if you stretch it out by going to 30 years. But I have examples for both. So your CMHC fee, if you were looking at going to 30 years, would be approximately 4.2% of the amount that you're borrowing, and that adds up to about $20,874. So that gets added to the mortgage amount that you're borrowing.
Mhm.
So what you're actually borrowing, even though you're putting down 27 and change, you're actually borrowing $517,874. So that whole it looks like that 27,000. Well, yes, I put that down, but then I just had to pay an extra 20, almost 21, in order to get this mortgage. So really, what have I got as true equity? I've got the difference between the two. So, but in essence, right now at 3.99 on a 30-year amortization, you're looking at a monthly payment of $2,459.66. So you can call it 2460.
All right. So let's recap that. This house,
Mm-hmm.
$524,000. You're a first time buyer.
Right.
You put down your 5% down payment on that first 500,000 and then 10% for what's over that. So we end up
Correct.
here with a down payment of around $27,000, and then your
Correct.
monthly mortgage payment is just under $2,500 a month.
That's correct. If you go to the 30-year amortization. And as a first time buyer, you can go to 30, because if you're not a first time buyer, you can't go to 30 years. Say that you're buying your second house. There's a couple of other ways that you can do it. It would only be if you were buying a brand new house for under $1 million. Could you actually go in with less than 20% down?
Okay. So you know as well as I do, rents, I mean, you're in Waterloo region, rent right now for a two-bedroom apartment is around $2,400, depending on the building you're at. So
Correct.
when you see this $2,500, I mean, I know, yes, people have to come up with the $27,000, but I mean, that's that incentive right there. People think, oh, price homes are so unaffordable now. But when you look at that monthly payment of 2,500 for your mortgage versus 2,500 for your rent, man, that's that incentive right there.
Absolutely. And you're building, and I know that, it takes a while to build equity and whatnot, but nonetheless, whatever equity you're building, it's yours, not your landlord's. And hey, I'm a landlord. I have some rental properties, but nonetheless, I always encourage people to have their own real estate if they can. I know that it's tight out there, but if you're paying that much for rent, why not buckle down if you can, and build some equity, because you have to live somewhere in the end.
Now, that down payment, how does that work for someone who already owns a home?
So if you already own a home, you can still buy with 5% down. You can't necessarily get the 30-year amortization, but you can still buy with as little as 5% down. You do have to qualify, and there are some, again, depending on the lenders that we would go to. And as a mortgage broker, I'm not tied to one particular lender. We try and shop it so that we can get the best rate for individual situation. Maybe they don't have stellar credit. But in the end, there are some lenders who aren't as stringent as others. Now, they all have to abide by the government regulations, but some truly just want the cream of the crop. And hey, I don't blame them. But some will give others a little more leeway. But in the end, you still have to be a reasonable risk for the lender.
I love it when you can take these numbers and just spell it out like that. It is so useful for people to see that. So one final thing before I let you go, you are a real estate agent and a mortgage agent. What is the benefit to working with someone who is both?
Well, one of the reasons I got into mortgages, and I've been a realtor for about 35 years, and I've been a mortgage agent, I think about 28 years. And one of the reasons I got in was because I used to see people being tied to a certain financial institution, and they say, I bank there, my parents bank there, and this is the rate that I get. And I would say, well, I've seen better rates out there. And I say, you deal with whomever you want, but I just want you to know, use me as leverage, or use me for your mortgage if you feel more comfortable dealing with your financial institution. But I just wanted to make sure that they would get the best rate. And as I told you before, there are people who have certain situations, whether they be credit or whether they be seasonal employment. There's all sorts of different things out there. The other big thing is child support, and now there are more and more programs that allow for spousal buyouts. But again, the rules are almost changing daily, weekly, daily. It almost feels like daily. It almost feels like hourly, really. But and it's hard for me to stay on top of them, let alone the public. But as a licensed mortgage agent, I work for a firm that is really big on communication. We have weekly, if not bi-weekly, if not weekly meetings, depending on the regulation changes that we see out there. We try to stay on top of things. And the really important thing is, I always tell people, if I don't know it, let me investigate it and see what I can find. That way we'll know if there's a niche lender out there that might be better for you, or might enable you to do this now rather than waiting for 2 or 4 or 6 years, because let's face it, prices are what they are. And, we're talking about $27,000 like it's nothing, but, to somebody to save $27,000, it's not an easy thing. It takes some discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good stuff. Thank you so much, Tony. If someone does want more information, how can they reach you?
They can reach me at Mortgages for You by Tony. You can just Google that, and that will be there. Or I'm still one of those cell phone guys who love when people call me. My number is, I almost sound like Doug Ford now, which is crazy, but 519-658-3026. I love talking to people, and I don't like hiding behind email or voicemail. So believe me, I will call you back if you call.
That's awesome. All right, Tony, thank you so much for taking the time to break this down. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kyle.